Hey friends, it's Dimitri with Rubashka Streetwear. So today I want to talk about pre-ordering. This is something that I have had on my mind for a while, and after lots of experience with it, I think it's time to talk about it, make a video, and share my thoughts about it. So we're going to talk about the pros of pre-ordering, the cons, and then some conclusions I have and maybe some advice for you guys if you want to take it or not. So the first pro that's very obvious is that up front you get the money. So when a customer is obviously purchasing a pre-order, they're giving you money up front, but you're not delivering the product right away. You're not creating the product before you sell it. So that means that money is basically easier to manage and you have less stress worrying about stuff selling, if it's popular or not, if you can make enough money for the month, that sort of thing. And tied in with that, obviously, is the whole issue of inventory. So that means just none. You don't need any inventory up front when you are doing a pre-order. So you are not going out and spending a lot of cash up front to create all the stuff. And the good thing about this is that the inventory is super accurate after that. So if you're making a certain amount and you sell a certain amount, you know exactly how much to make, plus a couple extras with returns and exchanges, or if something gets lost, you always want to make a buffer zone and make a couple extra items of each size. If you're doing a pre-order like that and you are ordering a set amount of inventory, it's always good to do that so you don't lose sales. And another thing, one other pro with that is that the customer can basically lock in their order. So what that means is that if you're making only a set amount, let's say you're doing a limited release, the customer, if you're doing pre-order, they can basically lock in their purchase and they don't have to worry about whether or not they'll be able to buy it later. They know that they will get it and that they bought the limited amount, and that's that. So it's a good way to get your customer's order locked in. Those are kind of the biggest pros with pre-orders, but there are a lot of cons, and that's kind of the biggest thing about this video. I'm going to tell you all the dangers of it. So one of the cons, the biggest con, is uncertainty. What can go wrong will go wrong. Even if you have a very reliable supplier, you're gonna realize that there's often delays, and especially with COVID right now, there's always uncertain time frames with stuff. So basically, problems happen. Stuff like delays, shipping. So when you're working with a supplier, whether they're local or overseas, you can't always get 100% like customer satisfaction from them, especially with COVID right now. Some places have to close down. They might be lacking employees. With supply chain issues, you might not be able to get certain colors or fabrics, stuff like that, certain types of materials that you want, and that can cause a ton of problems. So you need to have establish a good relationship with supplier. If you don't have that, your uncertainty is gonna increase a lot, because you need to have people that you can depend on to get you the goods in an appropriate time frame. And that's kind of one of the biggest problems too. Your time frame might not be accurate because of all these problems. So if you are coordinating with your supplier they might say, oh, it's going to get done this week, but then they have problems on their back end and it gets done a week later, 2 weeks later. So what happens with that is that you get this gigantic waste cycle of customer service problems. So what that means is that you're getting lots of messages, emails, DMs. If you are not sending the product out at the specified time that you said you would with the pre-order, you're going to be getting a ton of customers that can be like, hey, where's my order? I'm just checking up on you. And they're not necessarily, impatient or upset. It's that you set a certain time, right? But it's not being delivered. So then the customer is confused because when you purchase something, you usually get an email that says your order is confirmed, and then you get another email that says your order is shipped, and then usually a third email that says your order is delivered. After the first email and the customer is not getting their second email, they don't really know if their item shipped or not, especially if it's past the date where you said you would ship it out. So then that brings a lot of confusion. And on their end, you got to realize, put yourself in their shoes. If you've bought stuff before from another company and it's not getting shipped out, you're probably confused if it got lost or if something's wrong with your order. You just don't know what's going on. There's that uncertainty. So the uncertainty with the cons, it goes towards the overall pre-ordering, but also the uncertainty is being laid onto the customer, which can lead to unhappy customers. And your customer retention goes down. So less retention, that just means you might not have returning customers or customers that just don't have a good first impression of your brand. The best thing to do to get the best impression is to deliver a quality product fast on their first order. If you do that, you'll have a much higher rate of success to get that customer to come back to do a second, third, fourth order. And they might be like a lifetime customer. They might buy a couple things, every year, or they might buy a thing every month because they really like your brand. So you really want to keep those customers. You want to keep them happy. You really want to make a solid first impression for the customers that are placing their first order. Now, unhappy customers and less retention, this can lead to refunds. If you are taking too long, your customer might get upset and they're like, oh, I need this money. I didn't get the product. It's been a month. It's been 3 weeks. Can I get a refund? And then you have to go through that process, and that's a whole another waste cycle. And then that customer's upset, and obviously the chances of them coming back to buy again is almost zero. Why would they buy again if you never shipped out the first day and you refunded them, right? So that's a big problem. This has happened to me in the past where I did pre-orders and I had all these problems happen. This is why I'm making this video, to save you guys the pain. And people I've had, like, sometimes my stuff has been 2 or 3 weeks late from my supplier, and I just have this every day, so many messages, because I have a pretty big social media audience, and that's understandable. And then once in a while you do get people that want refunds, and it really sucks. It's like, oh, I don't want to lose you. I wanted you to enjoy my products. I'm so sorry. One last thing that I think is a con, I'm gonna write it up here, is schedule disruptions. What that means is that you are the owner, you're running your brand, you ideally want to have a schedule of what you're doing throughout the week. You're like, okay, I'm gonna get this design done, send it out to a manufacturer. I'm going to work on this. I'm gonna ship these orders out today. You're flowing along through the month. You're getting stuff done. If you have a supplier that's like, okay, it's gonna be done on Friday, but now it's Wednesday. Well, on Wednesday, when they're like, oh, we're done, you can go pick it up, you might be doing some other stuff that's really important, but then obviously getting those orders sent out is very, very important. So now you have this big scheduling conflict and this big disruption in your day. let's say that you have like a dentist appointment or you're going to doctors, and then all of a sudden, so you have that blocked out in your schedule, but then your supplier's like, oh, we got this stuff done. You can get it picked up or getting it shipped to you, and now you have this whole thing that's in the way. Or you are trying to send out time critical files to your manufacturer or supplier, and you set aside that day to work on them, but now you have all your stuff coming in, you have to get it shipped out really quick. So it just makes life very difficult for you. And this all becomes difficult basically because of this. This is like the key to all the other problems in a sense. And that's, I'm gonna write that in the conclusion again. Good supplier communication. If you don't have good communication, if you don't have good trust with your supplier, a pre-order is not the best thing that you should do, and you're going to be very frustrated. So pre-orders are good if you have good supplier and good communication. If you don't have that, it's not the best thing to do. That's kind of like the big conclusion of this. There's a lot more cons, in my opinion, than there are pros, and there's probably even more in here that I missed, but that's just what I've learned from my experience. And you know, you might have to do pre-orders. They might be necessary sometimes to make your month's income, to make income for a month. If you are, I work on a month-to-month basis, so I'm basically releasing new items, and I'm releasing some restocks or different colorway styles of a certain design again. And that's kind of the way my business operates. I don't do quarters, or I don't do like seasonal or like a whole collection, 1 or 2 collections for the year. I do month by month. This can be really tricky because sometimes suppliers, they can take longer than a month to get stuff to you. If you're getting just t-shirts and hoodies, simple stuff made, it's pretty easy to get stuff within the month, but you have to have a very strict schedule and good suppliers, like I said. And that kind of leads back into the whole schedule disruption. That's how it can really mess it up if you're doing month by month. But pre-orders can be necessary if you are trying to get your money's worth for the month, because you have to pay bills, you have to pay your credit cards, you have to have money to, you know, live. So that's kind of like the point of a pre-order sometimes, is to do that as well. So in conclusion, if you can, don't do it. I don't recommend pre-orders. If you can, avoid them. If you can't avoid them, really get this down, the whole establishing good communication with your supplier and making sure that you hold them to it. You're the customer to them, and then you have customers yourself. So you have to kind of put that onto your supplier. Make sure, tell them like, hey, I'm your customer. I want to have a good business relationship with you. I want to be treated like a good customer. You know, I want that respect from you. And in turn, you can facilitate a good business relationship and keep giving them dollars. So that's kind of the point of it. So anyways, I hope you guys like this video about pre-orders. If you have any other questions about it, leave me some comments down below, and I will catch you guys later. Thanks.